Welcome to week 1 of Fundamentals of Biblical Interpretation. So let me start by introducing myself. I've been married for 40 years to my husband, Doug. He was my high school sweetheart. We started dating when I was a junior in high school and he was a senior. We have 5 children. They are now ages 39 to 25, and we homeschooled them for about 25 years. I like puzzles and languages, and more recently, um, I have gotten to put those two together as I solve puzzles or attempt to solve puzzles using the language skills that I developed in seminary. So right now I'm really excited because one of my recent projects is to work on something called Contexticon. It's a new resource that some scholars are putting together, looking at the ways Greek words that are used in the Bible were used in other ancient texts so that we can get a better understanding of the range of meanings of those words. So I have the joy and the privilege of teaming up with the scholar who was my supervisor for my PhD. And she and I have been assigned 2 words, the word light, which is phos, and the word world, which is cosmos. So over the last week or so, I have been digging through ancient writings of Greek authors from the 1st century before and after Christ, pulling out all of the different ways that Greek writers used the word for light. And that's been really interesting and tedious and fascinating and all those things. And I'm excited to see as each one of us puts together these puzzle pieces, this resource that is being developed. For my academic background, I finished my bachelor's in 2007, my master's in 2009, and my PhD in New Testament in 2017. I teach for Ashland mostly on the Detroit campus and also some online, more and more now, of course. And for Spring Arbor University, primarily on the Toledo campus and online. And this fall, if all goes well, I'll be teaching online for 2 other seminaries also. I'm ordained in the Free Methodist Church. I serve as an associate pastor at New Beginnings Community Church. It's a small African-American, primarily church in Pittsfield Township, which, if you're not familiar, it's between Ann Arbor and Toledo. So feel free to check us out online and join us anytime. I would love for you to introduce yourselves as well in the introduction discussion board. I've divided you into groups in Blackboard because we have 25 students in this class, and that's too big a class for you to be able to interact and get to know each other well. So when you log on to Blackboard, you'll find yourself assigned to a group, and you'll be interacting in the discussion boards in those groups. As you get to know each other, you might want to even come up with a name for your group. I think that's a feature that Blackboard allows. This week, for week 1, you're going to be reading this book by Dr. Dennis Edwards. It's called What is the Bible and How Do We Understand It? I got to meet Dr. Edwards at the Call and Response Conference in Rochester, New York, about a year ago. And I went to his sessions because, as it turns out, he went to seminary with my pastor, Pastor Jeffrey Harold. And so he was recommended to me. I went to his session, and it was one of those sessions, and I'm sure you've had this experience, where the person up front is saying a whole bunch of things that you've kind of privately thought to yourself and never quite been brave enough to say out loud. So I was really taken by his approach. At the time, he had a brand new commentary on First Peter. And so I immediately went out and got that commentary. And it was one of the resources I used for my chapter on First Peter in this book, the T&T Clark Social Identity Commentary on the New Testament. And so the chapter on First Peter that I wrote uses his resources. I'll just mention, since I'm mentioning my books, The Not Very Persecuted Church is a short Bible study on the first 4 chapters of 1 Corinthians, and it introduces ideas of social identity. And then my thesis just came out in this very exciting looking book. I know it has an exciting cover, called Jesus Caesar. So that's new in 2019. But you will be reading the introductory chapter and chapter 1 of Dr. Edwards' book. And then at the end of that, you'll come onto the discussion board and answer some questions. There'll be 6 questions this week, and I thought I would mention 2 of them. Dr. Edwards starts his book by talking about the ways that some people read the Bible and then are somehow able to use the Bible to justify violence. And we've seen that happen throughout history. Some people have justified wars using the Bible. Some people continue to justify spousal abuse or child abuse using certain verses from the Bible. And the history of African Americans in our country, violence against African Americans, and the whole institution of slavery was supported by the Bible. And so Dr. Edwards' question is, what do you think of violence perpetrated by those claiming to believe the Bible? Is violence justified? Why or why not? So be thinking about that this week, and you'll have the opportunity to think out loud and discuss that with other students on the discussion board. The last question that you'll be answering is, what is the new creation that the New Testament points to? Dr. Edwards says some things about that, and you'll get to interact with his thoughts. He doesn't mention, but I thought I would mention 2 Corinthians 5:17. If you've memorized Bible verses, you may have memorized that as, therefore, if any man is in Christ, he is a new creation. And that is the way that text has often been translated in the past. But the Greek actually is missing the he is part. The sentence says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, new creation. And in Greek, it's perfectly common for the is verb to get dropped and for people to just assume it should be added. And so more recently, translators have looked at the body of work that Paul has left us and suggested that a better translation is, as the NIV translates it now, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. Or, if anyone is in Christ, there is a new creation, emphasizing not us as individuals and the way our being in Christ changes us, but rather the way our being in Christ invites us to participate in the new creation work that God is doing in the world. So you can think about that and you can discuss that on the discussion board. Now, on the discussion boards, what I'd like you to do is, for each question, formulate your answer first and post that, and then go and look at other students' answers and interact with them. Now, this gets a little bit stilted. It doesn't quite work the way natural conversations work, but it is designed to allow us to think and to debate with one another. And in order to keep the conversation civil, I have 2 models for the way I'd like you to formulate your replies. When you answer another student, I'd like your answer to be in the form yes and or yes but. So if you agree with the other student, just don't just say, yeah, that sounds great, or I agree. Say, yes, I agree that, and restate what it is about that other post that you agree with, and then add something. And also, this made me think, or and also, let me ask this question, that kind of thing. On the other hand, you might read a student's post that you disagree with. And the way I'd like you to formulate a response to one of those posts is in the form of yes, but also. So find something in that post that you do agree with. Yes, I agree that this is an important topic of discussion, but also I think we need to take into account this other thing. And that will help our discussion to be a little more robust, and also it will help us to disagree with one another politely. So I'm looking forward to getting to know you this week and looking forward to seeing you discuss these issues on our discussion board on Blackboard. Have a good week. Bye-bye.